crowdfunding, exploring the topic yesterday and the day before yesterday. So let's continue our discussions with session 3 and hope everybody enjoys it. So just moving ahead, our first speaker for this session is none other than CA Vaibhav Ghoshal, a seasoned chartered accountant. Mr. Ghoshal is dedicated to both teaching and financial expertise. As the owner of World of Education, he brings a blend of academic insights and practical knowledge, simplifying complex business concepts and strategies for students. He stays updated with market trends and innovative financial solutions, making him a trusted mentor for students aiming to excel in business and finance. Next up, we have none other than CA Suman Sengupta, a chartered accountant and economics graduate with 25 years of experience in finance, strategic planning, and treasury management across industries such as telecom and IT. Currently, Sumanji works as a senior advisor with an AIF fund and a boutique investment bank, defining processes like mandate execution and portfolio governance. Following him, we have CA MBN Ganesh Kumar, a practicing chartered accountant, expertise in startup advisory, management consultancy, and various financial areas like taxation, GST, and compliance. His role as a virtual CFO for companies across various industries helps them improve financial efficiency, budget planning, and operational controls. Our next speaker is none other than Dr. Prashant Singh, a renowned business consultant and mentor for various startups pan India. He is the founder of Tej Logistics Freight Express, a logistics company wherein he achieved a remarkable 140% compound annual growth rate through innovative delivery solutions. Dr. Singh holds doctorates in mechanical engineering and startup management, and he's also an active startup mentor at Marg. Dr. Singh is also the founder of Vashishtya Research and Education Foundation, a not-for-profit, and has authored 5 books contributing extensively to business development and research. Next up, we have none other than Mr. Mohammed, the founder, president, and CEO of World Digital Center. With decades of experience as a business consultant, he has advised digital companies on resolving challenges related to finance, advertising, marketing, branding, strategic management, and networking. Through his leadership at World Digital Center, Mr. Mohammed is dedicated to building a business culture wherein individuals have the tools and knowledge to run their ventures independently, empowering entrepreneurs to thrive in a digital first landscape. His vision focuses on creating sustainable, self reliant business practices for the future. Now, last but not the least, our final speaker at Cargo First. Rohit ji has extensive experience as an investment professional and a fundraiser. Rohit ji's diverse experience in both the startup and corporate sectors together gives him a deep understanding of investment strategies and market dynamics. His expertise in raising capital and driving growth in innovative sectors makes him a valuable speaker for today's session. We are grateful for all of your presence and eagerly anticipate our panelists' valuable insights and contributions to today's conference. We would also like to inform all of you that they will be conducting polls in the chat box throughout the session, and we encourage active participation from all the attendees. Now, just moving ahead, and before starting the conference, I would like to again extend a request to all the attendees and speakers to kindly switch on your webcams. I can still see multiple webcams which are off. Yash, Rukesha, Aman, Rianshi, Pooja if all of you could just switch on your webcams. I'd also like to repeat my note to all the attendees and request them to keep a pen and a notebook handy in case they want to take down any notes. Now, moving ahead, I would like to invite our first speaker for today, CA Vaibhav Ghoshal ji, to commence his speech and share his insights. I guess Vaibhav ji is not in the meeting. Saba, if you can just drop a call to him, it would be a pleasure.
Yes, sir. So I have called him.
Sure,
So
sure,
he is
sure,
going
sure.
to start.
Sure.
After 5 minutes.
Moving
he's
ahead. Sure. Until Vaibhav ji joins us, moving ahead, I would like to invite and request CA Suman Sengupta to commence his speech and share his insights with all of us. Yeah, Sumanji, am I audible?
Yes, second.
Sure.
1 second. Yeah. Yeah. Hi. I actually didn't know that I would be starting off the session. Can everybody hear me okay? Uh, Great. Thank you so much. So I've actually been listening to the presenters who've come over the last 2 or 3 days, and there've been some very interesting points of view regarding marketing, regarding crowdfunding, and I think there are two strands of opinion which you need to sort of understand about this, because everybody is very clear in saying that crowdfunding is a great thing, yeah, but everybody says that there are some regulatory issues there. So we need to sort of figure out what are these regulatory issues, and what are we doing about it. So I'm presenting my screen right now. Can you all see the screen?
Yeah, it's visible, Sumanji.
Great. So basically, what I wanted to say here is two things. One is that crowdfunding is something which came in from America, from from countries which are non-British legislation. Now, the reason why that's important is that in USA you have what's known as funding on tap. Now, funding on tap means that you can always fund at any point in time. You can go up and fund. That means that today, if I want to fund, say, 10 lakhs of rupees, I can go and crowdfund it. Tomorrow, if I want to do another 10 lakhs of rupees, I can also do that. So it is like the funding is can be opened like a tap. But in India, we follow British legislation, and all funding is event based or permissions based. So for instance, all funding that can be done more or less, I mean, there are some exceptions like one funding and the next
Excuse
funding,
me,
there has to be
Sumanji,
some gap.
your voice is lagging. If you can just check it once.
Okay, 1 second. Let me just then do one thing. Let me just stop my.
Yeah, now it's clear. Now it's clear. You may continue.
1 second.
Sure.
Yeah. So is it better now?
Yeah, it is better. Please continue.
Okay. So essentially what we're saying is that you can't really have funding on tap in India. And although you might want to have some crowdfunding is always a good thing, but it will have to be it will have to be event based. That means that if there is a startup and it wants to raise funds from you, and you want to give some money, even if it's a 10,000 rupees or 1 lakh rupees or whatever, then you'll have to have a call for money. You will have to have certain formalities which have to be done, some forms which have to be filled and submitted to the government. So it's not instantaneous. Similarly, the government, through the various entities like SEBI and others, is always looking at the from the aspect of investor protection. So there are certain things which they don't allow. Like if you're making an open offer for people to invest, then that's called a public offer for investment, and that has certain very strong restrictions or stipulations around it. A private offer, which is a smaller offer, is given to a limited number of people, and you can do that. So while crowdfunding is possible if you directly invest in the company, but the the process that we have here, where we are investing through, through a platform, is something which has not really worked out. See, we're talking about that there are three main participants in the in the entire crowdfunding scenario. There's the founder who proposes the idea, the individuals like yourselves who support the idea, and lastly, there is the moderating organization, which is the platform or the pooling vehicle, and that brings the parties together. So here, the important point is that the government wants to catch the pooling vehicle. So there have been cases, and if you go on the internet and see the case of a company called Tyke, you'll find that there have been lots of judgments, lots of discussion about how crowdfunding can be made possible and not possible. So let's go on the assumption now that crowdfunding is possible, but it is possible in a certain manner. I want to flip the argument, because you'll definitely hear lots of people saying why crowdfunding is good, why it is, and stuff like that. I would like to tell you, and I'm very sure that there are lots of people here who are founders themselves, or who want to run their own startups, or want to run their own companies. So I would like to give you a little bit of the perspective of what an investor looks for. My background is that over the last 5 years, I've worked with a couple of community investment platforms and investment banks. And I think that I would have helped investment in maybe about 100 odd startups over the 5-year period, approximately 20 per year. In some years it was more, in some years it was less. But I would have looked at about maybe 1,000 companies, maybe invested in 100 over this period. So if I'm looking at it from the point of view of the investor, so what is the early stage investor's perspective of why he should invest, or should he walk away? So there are some interesting observations which you can find. So a good business, we have to differentiate between what is the business and what is an investment. A good business may not be a good investment, but a bad business is always a bad investment. Similarly, the other thing that you also have to remember here is that all businesses may be good, but may not be investable. And I will come to that in a minute or so. Yeah. Because if a company is not scalable, if it is not likely to give outsized returns, if it is not likely to utilize capital, then it may not be investable. A consultancy is a good business, but it is not scalable. So it won't be invested in. Okay. So what are the various things that an investor looks for who invests at a very early stage? They'll take a small stake. They won't have a very large stake, maybe 5 to 10% or 15 to 20% stake in the company. Because they have a smaller stake, they will take certain protective clauses. Like you will hear the names like liquidation preference or anti-dilution, etc. They would like to get their money back within 5 to 7 years. Sometimes the sooner the better. And angel investors or early stage investors are more closely and emotionally attached to the companies. So they will support their companies with advice, with funding, and generally be more interested and involved in the company than later stage investors usually are. Yeah. So we have to say, why does an investor invest in startups? I mean, he or she could put the money in the market and make a lot of money. I mean, people are getting 20-30% returns in the market. So why do you want to invest in startups? And would you invest in a large amount in startups? I wouldn't. I would say that keep the majority of your money for other things. Invest the spare capital in startups, because it is very risky. 93% of all startups fail. So that is a fairly large number. But why do you want to invest in startups? Because it gives you certain outsized advantage. There's hyper growth. Hyper growth means that while a good company might be growing at 10% per annum, a startup, because it has a small base, may be actually growing at 10% per month. So it will grow very quickly, and the actions that, because it is small, the actions that you take, you can see the immediate response. Similarly, capital efficiency. Typically, what happens is that startups are not capital heavy. They're not investing in steel plants or dams or stuff like that. They're investing in items which are capital light, where the majority of the expense is not in building fixed assets. The focus is on creating an intellectual property as a competitive advantage, or what we call as a moat, MOAT. That this is that they will use various patents or trademarks which would be developed and use these in the business to create a competitive advantage. Secondly, since we know that, as I said before, that the exit will happen in 5 to 7 years, the investors are quite active and they are always looking for an opportunity to either increase their stake or to exit. So there is always M&A, is mergers and acquisitions. So there is always a chance that that an investor will try to get his money out. Specifically within that, and we've talked about the great opportunity that we have in India, which we are so fortunate to have, that we can invest into companies. And this has been happening over the past 10, 12 years, since about, say, 2010 onwards, that you can invest in companies which are the first in their product portfolio, first in their product sector. And the markets are underserved. That means that they are not fully developed, and you can penetrate those markets using technology. Good example is Policy Bazaar. Life insurance has been there for many years, but they have used a technology platform to penetrate that. It's an underserved market. They've used technology to penetrate that market. So the challenges for the investors which are there is discovery, where to find startups, how to evaluate startups, how to do the negotiation and documentation of startups. And nowadays, the most one of the biggest problems that people face is post-investment monitoring. We call the companies which you've invested in portcos, portfolio companies. And when you have 20, 30 portcos, then managing them itself is a very specialized operation and requires a lot of effort. So what do an early stage investor look for? They look for something which grows very fast and exponential growth in their business model, something which causes a disruption, something which is not a me too product or a me too service, but something which is completely new. Like Ola was completely new in India, like Zomato was completely new in India, like Policy Bazaar was completely new. So these are disruptions in the existing market space. Now, this is the interesting thing. Typically, most early stage investors today, and it would be very different than, say, 5 or 10 years back, they look at some revenues or customer validation. This is required because if a company is not able to get some sort of market fit or some sort of product out, then it becomes very difficult to give a rationale for investment. Yeah. Low capital intensity. So basically, that if the ratio of capital to sales is very high. If I invest X amount, then the possibility of getting 3x or 4x of that amount in sales is what is looked for. That means not invest in fixed assets. And we look for a company that can scale to IPO or be an attractive target for acquisition. I was talking about mergers and acquisitions earlier. So this is what they could look for. Either you merge it, or you sell it, or it goes to an IPO stage. And over the last year, many companies which have been started off as startups 4, 5, 10 years back have come to the IPO stage with very differing results. But yes, they've come to the IPO stage. And lastly, and most importantly, and this is the most important one, what does a investor look for? It is the team. It is the founder. There is no track record. So why do you invest? You invest on the basis of how comfortable you are with the founder, and what you think he has done with the team. So that leads me to the next point. How do you evaluate the founder? We look at he or she should have passion. They should be able to have the resilience, confidence, to be able to ride over obstacles. There should be flexibility. I mean, they should not be so wedded to one thing. They should have the ability to change focus if the business demands it, and vision. But mostly and most importantly, what they you look for in a entrepreneur is integrity. I think the gentleman the other day was talking, who was doing the forensic. He was talking about that how the integrity really matters. So you can see what has happened in the case of two or three major cases in the recent past, whether it's Go Mechanic is one, a couple of others where people have overstated revenues and have been found out. So integrity really matters. You are giving your money on trust to a person. So that's really, really important. Now, if we look at a business, we have the team and we have the business. The business is the horse, and the team is the jockey. So, which is more important? Is it the business, or is it the is it the jockey, or is it the horse? So, this is something that you have to think about when you're investing. How do you do that? Because, and there's a wonderful quote from Warren Buffett, which I've just put there. If a business is very, very bad, then it will stay bad. Even if you have a brilliant management can only do so much. So typically, what do? You would try to back the jockey and avoid the weak horses. So the downsides of in early stage investment are sometimes it's difficult to evaluate. There is a very high mortality rate, 93%, as I said. Returns are difficult to estimate. I mean, how you will get the returns, and the shares that you buy in a company, and this is specifically very important for if you're looking at it from the community platform, they're illiquid. They're not on any stock exchange. So only if there is a willing buyer of those shares will you be able to exit. So that's very important. So these are the learnings which I have had over the past 10 years in investing in startups. We should look at investing in companies which have some amount of revenue and with low break-even point. I mean, they have low fixed break-even point comes when there is the company covers its fixed cost. So if it has low fixed costs, that is always good. Always try for companies or sectors where there is high survival, and support is always very key. Yeah.
Excuse me,
So thank
Sumanji.
you. I want to stop here.
Sure.
And
Sure.
my email is on screen, so in case you want to talk to me, that's that also. I'm happy to share any thoughts on that.
Sure, Sumanji. Thank you for your amazing speech, and it was quite informative, especially the last part when you explained what is actually the basis for investors to invest on founders and entrepreneurs. That was quite informative because that is a part which nobody covered till now, and that's the actual truth too. Well, however, due to time constraints, I would like to request you to just share your email ID in the chat box for all the attendees. And thank you. Thank you for it. Sure. Moving ahead, I would like to invite CA Vaibhav Goshalji to commence his speech and share his insights with all of us.
Hello, guys. A very good evening to all of you. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, sir. Sumandra has very nicely led a foundation for this and passed on baton to me to take the session forward. Good evening, Suman sir. You have really very nicely set up the session. So जैसे आपने बताया कि बेसिक 93% फेलियर का रेशियो है। मैं उस फेलियर के अलावा रेशियो की बात करना चाहता हूं जो 7% वाले रेशियो की बात है। इफ यू टॉक टू पीपल रैंडमली दीज डेज, जैसे हम बात करते हैं कि यार मैं मेरा लगाता हूँ या मेरा पैसा डेट पे लगाता हूँ या तो ज्यादातर 25 से 35 एज वाले लोग हैं वो बोलते हैं आप स्टार्टअप्स में पैसा नहीं लगाते हो क्या? सो इमीडिएटली भाई अपने को तो लगता है स्टार्टअप्स में, तो देश से कि पता है मैं मेरे 3 लाख रुपए लगाए थे स्टार्टअप में एंड इट हैज टर्न्ड आउट टू बी 6 करोड़ रुपीज। अरे वाह, बट जस्ट मेरा उनसे एक सिंपल सेशन होता है कि इसे लिक्विडेट कैसे करोगे? तो बोले वो तो कंपनी राउंड 2 फंडिंग होगी, सीरीज राउंड 3 फंडिंग, सीरीज राउंड 4 फंडिंग। बाय द टाइम वो कंपनी एग्जिस्ट करेगी कि नहीं करेगी वो दूसरी बात है, और तीसरी बात ये पैसा आपके हाथ में कब और कैसे आए। नाउ वन वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट आस्पेक्ट क्राउड फंडिंग पे वाली बात 7% वाली बात पे आना चाहूंगा। तो लॉन्च में ऐसा हुआ कि स्टार्टअप में 1 लाख रुपए लगाया है, वो 1 लाख रुपए से 1 रुपया हो गया। नाउ किसी एक इन्वेस्टर को भी अगर पैसे की जरूरत पड़ी और उसने एग्जिट करने के लिए अपने प्राइसेस को गिरा है, सो यार 1 लाख रुपए ले लेता हूं, उसका अगर 20 lakhs भी मिल रहा है तो, बट अगर वो ट्रांजेक्शन 20 lakhs पे हो गया तो लास्ट ट्रेडेड प्राइस इज कंसिडर्ड एज द मार्केट वैल्यू, प्राइस जो डिटरमाइन करवा रही है। तो मार्केट में वैल्यू कुछ भी बोले, ट्रेड वजह से वो एग्जिट नहीं ले सकते, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट नहीं हो, या बाई चांस मैनेजमेंट के आपको मिल तो बाकी इन्वेस्ट हो जाते हैं। तो 96 वहां पे भी एग्जिट इज द ग्रेटेस्ट चैलेंज। वन ऑफ द aspect investing money into stock market is or to is having the benefit of marketability and liquidity. मुझे कई सारे आ रहे हैं, I'm not able to get am I able?
Yeah, you're audible, just the voice is lagging, Vaibhavji.
हो रहा है?
Am I audible, Vaibhavji? Yeah.
Lagging.
बस हो रहा है,
Just
सुनाई
give
दिया था।
give me a minute.
Sure.
Okay, एक second.
Until then, I would like to request the attendees to kindly participate in the opinion poll going in the chat box.
अब
Now it's okay.
Okay, अब I hope पहले से क्लियर होगा।
Exact. Good to go.
अभी भी लैग कर रहा है या अब इट इज एब्सोल्युटली ऑडिबल?
Now it's absolutely audible. Please continue. Vaibhavji, your screen got stuck. If you can just check your
अब audible
network connection once. हाँ, अब audible है, but बीच में लगा आपका screen completely अटक गया था. Now it's clear. Now it's clear.
अब
Please
एकदम
proceed.
perfectly all right?
Perfectly all right.
Okay. So point is, मैं जस्ट सर की एक बात लेने के बाद आई वुड वांट टू कम टू द मैक्रो एस्पेक्ट ऑफ क्राउड फंडिंग, बट जो सर ने माइक्रो में बात कही कि सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज जो है वो एग्जिट पे है। मतलब वैल्यूएशन ऑन पेपर, बट ऑन पेपर का करूं क्या? इन हैंड इट इज व्हाट यू वांट, यू डोंट गेट इट ऑन इन योर हैंड। सो ये एक बहुत बड़ा लिमिटेशन है। नाउ इफ आई टॉक अबाउट क्राउड फंडिंग का क्या क्या असर हो सकता है ऑन लॉट ऑफ एस्पेक्ट्स, वैसे तो मॉडर्न कॉन्सेप्ट ही है। माइकल सुलेवान ने पहली बार यूएस में 2006 में इसको एक टर्म दिया था। इज अ फेमस टेक्नोलॉजिस्ट, एंड इंडिया में तो स्टार्टअप्स का जस्ट लुकिंग इनटू द हिस्ट्री, मोदी गवर्नेंस ने पहली बार स्टार्टअप्स को प्रॉपरली डिफाइन किया था दैट एनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन इज एंगेज्ड इनटू इनोवेशन, रिसर्च, डेवलपमेंट, कमर्शियलाइजेशन ऑफ गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज इज अ स्टार्टअप विद सर्टन नंबर्स के भाई 25 करोड़ से टर्नओवर कम होना चाहिए, इनकॉर्पोरेशन इंडिया में होना चाहिए, इनकॉर्पोरेशन के 5 साल से ज्यादा नहीं होने चाहिए। तो उन स्टार्टअप्स के लिए क्राउड फंडिंग के प्लेटफॉर्म्स कई सारे बने। ना क्राउड फंडिंग के अगर मैं देखूं मैक्रो लेवल पे इफेक्ट्स, सो पॉलिटिकली भी इसके बहुत सारे चैलेंजेस है, इकोनॉमिक चैलेंजेस भी कई सारे हैं, बेनिफिट्स भी कई सारे हैं, सोशल चैलेंजेस, सोशल बेनिफिट्स भी कई सारे हैं, टेक्नोलॉजिकल एस्पेक्ट्स को भी बहुत असर करता है, लीगल एस्पेक्ट्स भी बहुत सारे हैं. तो नाउ इफ आई टॉक अबाउट द लीगल एस्पेक्ट्स ऑफ क्राउड फंडिंग, नाउ इंडिया का इक्विटी क्राउड फंडिंग इज नॉट regulated. You must understand first very basic thing about crowdfunding. क्रिप्टो करेंसी इंडियंस कर तो सकते हैं, लेकिन अगर कुछ गड़बड़ हो जाए तो आपको प्रोटेक्ट करने कोई नहीं आएगा. वजीर एक्स उड़ गया तो उड़ गया, कोई बचाने नहीं आया. फिर भले ही आज बिटकॉइन वापस $92,000 पे भी क्यों ना आ गया हो. सेम रेस्ट्रिक्शन और प्रोहिबिशन दो अलग वर्ड्स हैं, ये जरूर समझिएगा. क्राउड फंडिंग ऐसे तो इंडिया में गवर्नड है, लेकिन इक्विटी क्राउड फंडिंग इज नॉट रेगुलेटेड. देयर इज नो स्पेसिफिक लॉ गवर्निंग इक्विटी क्राउड फंडिंग. मतलब ये हम हमारे डिस्क्रिशन पे, हमारी ही रिस्क पे करते हैं. इन्वेस्टमेंट का पहला फाउंडेशन है कि इट शुड बी लीगली सिक्योर्ड. तो क्राउड फंडिंग में ये सबसे बड़ी लिमिटेशन है कि इक्विटी क्राउड फंडिंग इज नॉट, या कोई आप क्रिएटिव एक्टिविटी के लिए कर रहे हो. द होल, मैं फाउंडेशन में जाना चाहता हूं कि क्राउड फंडिंग का कॉन्सेप्ट आया क्यों. जैसे हम लोग पढ़ते हैं ना सस्टेनेबिलिटी के बारे में, वैसे ही फाइनेंशियल सस्टेनेबिलिटी भी आनी चाहिए थी कि यार कुछ लोगों के पास बहुत ज्यादा पैसा है और कुछ लोगों के पास पैसा नहीं है. तो जिन लोगों के पास पैसा नहीं है लेकिन मेहनत करना चाहते हैं, आगे बढ़ना चाहते हैं, तो जिन लोग के पास पैसा है वहां से ये पैसे को शिफ्ट करवा देना है. फाइनेंशियल सस्टेनेबिलिटी की वजह से ये कंसेप्ट लाया गया था क्राउड फंडिंग का. बट दिस हैज टेकन अ वेरी डिफरेंट टर्न ऑल टुगेदर. नाउ बेसिकली इंडिया में इक्विटी का क्राउड फंडिंग अनरेगुलेटेड है. मतलब कल को कुछ हो गया तो ना कोई सेबी आपको कुछ संभालने आने वाली है, ना कोई गवर्नमेंट बॉडी, कोई ऑथोराइज बॉडी नहीं है जो इसको संभालेगी. तो लीगल चैलेंज तो बहुत बड़ा है ही. कल को अगर कुछ प्रॉब्लम आ जाए तो लिक्विडेशन का बहुत ज्यादा दिक्कत है, इशू है कि आपने क्राउड फंडिंग में पैसा लगा तो दिया, अब व्हाट वुड हैपन. या व्हेन इट कम्स टू क्रिएटिव एस्पेक्ट, कि आपको म्यूजिक बनाना है, आपकी मूवीज बनानी है, इसके लिए क्राउड फंडिंग चाहिए. लोग पैसा लगाते हैं, वो अगर सक्सेसफुल हो जाता है तो रिवॉर्ड शेयर होंगे. बट ये एक मेजर चैलेंज है. कुछ क्वेश्चन आया मेरे को, या आप ओरली भी पूछ सकते हैं. आप चैट बॉक्स में पूछने की जगह मुझसे डायरेक्टली ओरली क्वेश्चन पूछ लें. यस, मैसेज आया हुआ है. या इट इज नॉट रेगुलेटेड. देयर इज नो स्पेसिफिक लॉ गवर्निंग, नो इनकम टैक्स अथॉरिटीज, नो गवर्नमेंट इंस्टीट्यूशन इज रेगुलेटिंग क्राउड फंडिंग, इक्विटी क्राउड फंडिंग. यस, हाँ, मतलब कर सकते हैं, वही क्रिप्टो करेंसी जैसा कर सकते हैं, फॉरेक्स जैसा कर सकते हैं, लेकिन कल को अगर कुछ हो गया, हेज फंडिंग जैसा, हाँ एग्जैक्टली, कल को कुछ हो गया तो गवर्नमेंट बचाने नहीं आएगी. सो ये एक लीगल चैलेंज बहुत बड़ा है. नाउ कमिंग टू पॉलिटिकल एस्पेक्ट, when we now talk about the political thing, तो it comes about, मतलब there are a lot of aspects included in it, जैसे कि जनरल स्टेबिलिटी, पीस ऑफ द कंट्री वगैरह वगैरह. लेकिन यहाँ थोड़ा बिजनेस एस्पेक्ट से लिंक करते हैं इसको. सो इफ आई लिंक क्राउड फंडिंग विद पॉलिटिकल एस्पेक्ट्स, मैक्रो लेवल पे अगर हम देखें तो इसमें एक ये बहुत बड़ी चीज देखी जा रही है कि देयर आर लॉट ऑफ फेक क्राउड फंडिंग बिजनेसेस क्रिएटेड, प्लेटफॉर्म्स क्रिएटेड एंड इन्वेस्टर क्रिएटेड. जैसे सुमन सर ने बताया था, 3 तरह के लोग क्राउड फंडिंग के पार्टिसिपेंट्स होते हैं. नाउ ये पॉलिटिकल फंडिंग में भी बहुत बार काम लगता है कि भाई कोई एक फेक बिजनेस खड़ा किया है, एक फेक प्लेटफॉर्म खड़ा किया है, और एक फेक आई शुड से इन्वेस्टर्स तो ठीक अपना पैसा जो लगा रहे हैं वो लगा रही हैं, वो बिजनेस को ऑन पेपर मल्टीप्लाई किया गया है, एंड दैट वो पैसा ही वापस पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज को जा रहा है, एटलीस्ट एट लोकल लेवल. सो ये भी एक, मतलब क्राउड फंडिंग लोगों के मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट्स और ये सब चीजों के फंड रेज करने के लिए ज्यादा अच्छे से यूज हो सकता था, बट यहाँ ये थोड़ी कुछ मॉडिफाइड एक्टिविटीज भी इकोनॉमी. तो लोगों का कितना ट्रस्ट रह जाएगा क्राउड फंडिंग पे जब ये सब चीजें बाहर आएगी, ये भी एक देखने लायक चीज है. टॉकिंग अबाउट द सोशल एस्पेक्ट, यस, केटो जैसा प्लेटफॉर्म अच्छे से काम कर रहा है, बहुत सारे लोगों को मेडिकल एड दिलवाने में थ्रू क्राउड फंडिंग. I was very touched and pleased with it when I saw that लॉट ऑफ पीपल आर गेटिंग रियली गुड मेडिकल असिस्टेंस, मतलब अननोन पीपल भी किसी की मेडिकल हेल्प के लिए 100 रुपए, 200 रुपए, 500 रुपए क्राउड फंडिंग की तरह हेल्प कर रहा है, और दैट इज गोइंग टू द इकोनॉमी। किसी की जिंदगी बच जाना यार बहुत बड़ी चीज है, क्राउड फंडिंग के थ्रू ये भी हो रहा है। टेक्नोलॉजिकल एस्पेक्ट तो इसका बहुत स्ट्रांग है ही। सो बहुत सारे टेक स्टार्टअप्स को क्राउड फंडिंग मिल रहा है एंड दे आर टेकिंग इट फॉरवर्ड। सो मैक्रो लेवल पे भी इसको अंडरस्टैंड करना बहुत जरूरी है। सो दिस इज वन मेजर थिंग। अब लिक्विडिटी तो एक बहुत बहुत ही एक्सट्रीम कंसर्न है, यस। सो ये एक बहुत ही मेजर चैलेंज है इन टर्म्स ऑफ क्राउड फंडिंग। सो गोइंग फ्यूचर, और ये मैं नहीं, ये डेटा, गवर्नमेंट का डेटा, ट्रैक्ड डेटा, बहुत सारे फाइनेंशियल सिस्टम्स का ट्रैक डेटा, क्राउड फंडिंग के थ्रू अनऑर्गेनाइज्ड मार्केट में 80 बिलियन रुपीज की क्राउड फंडिंग हुई है ऑर्गेनाइज्ड मार्केट में। तो अनऑर्गेनाइज्ड मार्केट या कितना सारा तो नोटेड भी नहीं होता है, तो क्राउड फंडिंग का प्रेजेंस है बहुत ज्यादा। तो ये इकोनॉमी के लिए भी बहुत बहुत ही एसेंशियल पार्ट है। सो दिस इज इन ब्रॉड एस्पेक्ट्स आपके मैक्रोज को ये कैसे असर करता है ना। किनको क्राउड फंडिंग के लिए जाना चाहिए बेसिकली? सर ने कहा था प्रमोटर्स की इंटेग्रिटी। सुमन सर की मुझे कुछ बातें बहुत अच्छी लगी, तो मैं वो चीजों को लिंक करके आगे लेकर के जाना चाहता हूँ। सर ने कहा था प्रमोटर की इंटेग्रिटी। कई सारे लोग हमारे पास कंसल्टेंसी के लिए आते हैं कि, और काफी क्वालिफाइड, काफी प्रोफेशनल अच्छे लोग, कि सर मुझे मेरा बिजनेस स्केलेबल बनाना है, मुझे टेक यूज करके मेरे को, मतलब फॉर एग्जांपल फिटनेस इंडस्ट्री में मेरे को ये एक ऑनलाइन प्लेटफॉर्म बिल्ड करना है। सो मेरा एक हमेशा ये सजेशन रहता है कि बूट स्ट्रैपिंग क्यों नहीं करते हो? तो एक इमीडिएट रिप्लाई ये आता है कि सर बूट स्ट्रैपिंग करने में तो खुद का पैसा लग जाएगा। तो मैंने बोला बाहर से पैसा लाना क्यों है? बोले बाहर से पैसा इजीली मिल जाता है और उसमें कोई रिस्क नहीं है। लाइक क्यों कंपनी, प्रमोटर का आइडिया जितना चेक करना जरूरी है, उतना ही प्रमोटर और उसके रिलेटिव्स का फाइनेंशियल बैकग्राउंड भी चेक करना जरूरी है, जो लोग क्राउड फंडिंग के लिए आ रहे हैं। अगर प्रमोटर के पास खुद के पास अच्छा खासा पैसा है और फिर भी वो क्राउड फंडिंग के लिए आ रहा है, देर आर हायर चांसेस कि उस पैसे को उतना अच्छे से यूटिलाइज नहीं करेगा जितना वो पैसे को यूटिलाइज करना चाहिए। एंड ये देखा भी गया है कि बहुत सारे प्रमोटर्स पिछले 10 सालों में, उन लोग की खुद की वेल्थ बहुत अच्छी खासी है, बट उनके बिजनेसेस लॉसेस में, उनके इन्वेस्टर्स आज भी फंसे पड़े हैं, क्राउड फंडिंग वालों की बैंड बजी पड़ी है, रेगुलेटेड नहीं है ना, तो ये ग्रे एरिया मिल जाता है। एंड ये रोल मॉडल्स भी बन गए हैं बहुत सारे। किसी का मैसेज आया, ये शार्क टैंक वालों की बात नहीं, नहीं मैं किसी को पॉइंट नहीं कर रहा हूँ, डोंट गेट मी रॉन्ग, प्लीज 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 डोंट गेट मी रॉन्ग, मैं कोई शार्क टैंक वालों की बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ, ओके। उनके सबके बिजनेसेस लॉसेस में है क्या? आई एम नॉट श्योर, कुछ एक के तो प्रॉफिट्स में है, क्वार्टरली रिजल्ट्स मैंने देखे हैं अच्छे हैं। सो पॉइंट इज, ऐसे कई सारे उन्होंने कभी खुद का पैसा बिजनेस में लगाया नहीं, क्योंकि उनको क्राउड फंडिंग या ऐसे प्लेटफॉर्म से पैसा मिल जाता है। लोगों की अवेयरनेस अभी तक इतनी बढ़ी नहीं है, लोग बस अच्छा आइडिया देख के पैसा लगा देते हैं। एक सिंपल सी बात, अगर एक प्रमोटर खुद अपने बिजनेस में पैसा नहीं लगा रहा है, उसको डर है, तो लोगों का पैसा लगा रहा है, जुडिशियसली वो यूज करेगा उस पैसों को हमेशा। क्योंकि इट इज वेरी सिंपल कि किसी को ऑन बोर्ड लाना मतलब डाइल्यूशन ऑफ कंट्रोल, अपने इक्विटी शेयर्स तो उसी दिन रिलीज कर देना। अपनी बॉडी में से कोई अपना हाथ काट के थोड़ी दे देता है। इट इज सेम कि अपनी कंपनी के शेयर्स थोड़ी मैं किसी को ऐसे ही दे दूंगा। इंस्टेड क्राउड फंडिंग, अगर आप ये देखो कि किसी स्टार्टअप ने एटलीस्ट 3-4 साल बूट स्ट्रैपिंग से काम किया है एंड नाउ दे आर रनिंग शॉर्ट आउट ऑफ कैश, बट उनका बिजनेस सस्टेनेबल है, ग्रो कर सकता है, दैट इज रियली वेयर क्राउड फंडिंग इज हेल्पफुल। क्राउड फंडिंग एक सेवियर की तरह आ सकता है उन बिजनेसेस को जो बिजनेस आइडियाज अच्छे हैं लेकिन उतने ग्रो नहीं कर रहे हैं। सो प्रमोटर्स इंटेग्रिटी को मैंने शायद थोड़ा सा इलैबोरेटिव और मेरे बहुत ही जनरलाइज्ड वे में बताने की कोशिश की। सो ये मेरे मेरे हिसाब से ये कुछ एक बहुत एसेंशियल टेक अवेज हमेशा मैंने देखे हैं। या क्राउड फंडिंग में पैसा लगाना बहुत सोच समझ के चाहिए, यस बहुत सोच समझ के चाहिए। दूसरा, मल्टीफोल्ड रिटर्न्स, यस मल्टीफोल्ड रिटर्न्स, लेकिन मल्टीफोल्ड रिटर्न्स इन हैंड कब, ये देखिएगा. दिस इज वेरी वेरी एसेंशियल. क्या आपका पैसा 20 गुना 3 साल में हो गया, लेकिन मिलेगा 15 साल के बाद, और 15 साल का तो कंपनी रहेगी कि नहीं रहेगी. एक्चुअली जो सर 93% का डेटा कह रहे हैं ना, आप 10-15 साल में एनालाइज कीजिएगा, वो डेटा 93 नहीं 99% हो जाएगा या 98% हो जाएगा. So this is something that really, yeah. कुछ क्वेश्चंस किसी को हो तो they can freely ask.
Sure. Thank you for your speech, Vaibhav ji. Although we have a time constraint, I would like to request you to share your email ID in the chat box so that if anyone has any queries, they can personally connect with you. I hope that works.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. That was a wonderful speech, and obviously आपने just aspects से समझाया, including the cryptocurrency areas. That was a very good example because we have never taken cryptocurrency into consideration while considering crowdfunding. That's the point. Thank you. Please share your email ID.
Yes, sir.
Now moving ahead, I would like to invite CA MBN Ganesh Kumar ji to commence his speech and share his insights with all of us.
Thank you, Shravan sir. So it's very valuable insights given by all my previous speakers. I would like to discuss more on the practicality about the subject. Hello all, I am CA MBN Ganesh Kumar, practicing chartered accountant with profile startup advisory. Being in this field, I commonly come across various hurdles faced by startups. One of the main problems is finding right business, and the other one is finding proper resources. Then comes funding, operations, compliances, etc. So nowadays, people are coming up with different ideas by identifying gaps in the market, combining technological upgradations into the existing ways of businesses, and their ideas are revamping entire business structure sometimes, like what Ola, Swiggy, and every Rapido has done. Then comes analyzing the business feasibility, whether this idea is getting validated or not, whether this works or not, whether this idea turns into money or not. That's what we need to find. Then for startups, finding the right resources is also a very big problem because no one is interested easily to come into startups, work over there, because the sustainability of startups itself is in doubt. Sometimes startups have to give heavy packages to obtain right resources. For everything to happen, there should be some cash inflow, either through equity, debt, or a donation, including this bootstrapping. That's why finance is called lifeblood of an organization. So, how do startups get finance? Either from their own sources, that's called bootstrapping, or from relatives or something, debt financing, grants from government if you are eligible under different schemes of government. Nowadays, government is also giving subsidies to startups, especially these are in semiconductor industries, technologically innovative products, etc. Then these angel investors, venture capitalists are there who are focused on the enhancement of equity value. Then they leave some time after. So the upcoming method is crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is very emerging trends of financing wherein businesses raise small amounts of money from large number of people. This is highlighted by all my previous speakers. I would like to keep this theoretical knowledge very minimal so that we can concentrate on the practical purposes. Crowdfunding works as marketing strategy also because the crowd who has funded you will promote the business in marketplace. It is also like a validation of your idea before stepping it into actual production. If the idea is correct or not, it is not correct, not many people would join you. Crowdfunding is generally of three types: equity based, debt based, and grant based. Practically speaking, it is not directly permitted by law, so we just see how we can do it. When it is coming to equity, a private limited company can have up to 200 shareholders. Shareholder need not be an individual as per company law. It can be entities like LLP, partnership firm, or company again. Under each head, we can have another 200 shareholders in each company or partnership firm, like that. That can be accommodated. And then accepting of public deposits from members. If you need some further capital, we can accept public deposits from existing members up to 25% of paid up share capital. Private company can also issue debentures and bonds. However, it requires some permissions, resolutions. No problem. We are there to deal with it. Then comes the next question: profit sharing ratio. How you will be sharing your profit? Because no company would directly want some other person to involve in the management and take all the profits away. So, uh, of course, we'll let them have a good reward for their help. That does not mean that your equity is enjoyed by them. There is also a solution for that. In initial stages, profit will be shared to equity investors after taking the entrepreneur's desired amount as salary plus incentives as a percentage of profit. Then from the balance, some portion can be retained as reserves. Then from the remaining balance, company can declare the dividends. However, it should be tactically done, not to displease the investors, because they'll be feeling like even if you are getting the same return directly investing in the market or some fixed deposits or some other debentures of a established company, we need to match the returns and satisfy our investors also. Once the company is in growth phase, promoters can buy back their equity from investors. So by paying them then market value at the time of buyback and have their equity and enjoy it. Then comes this debt-based crowdfunding by issuing redeemable debentures, because we can't continue them for lifelong. We need to issue redeemable debentures with interest. Advantage here is they will be having no voting rights unless you pay them interest correctly. However, the compliances are there, like creating debenture redemption reserves every year, regarding how much amount you need to pay in near future, and appointing debenture trustees if you are having crowdfunding of from 500 people or more. And once the company is in position to pay back, we can call for redemption even earlier. Um, I would like to continue by sharing success stories of crowdfunding from my clientele with you. Firstly, I would start with a co-working space. I should not disclose the name because of the professional standards. It's a co-working space. To invest in there, to purchase some space, 40 lakh rupees is invested needed for 500 SFT of co-working space. One of my client has purchased 5,000 SFT with 4 crores, which was raised from crowdfunding investment model. It is like he has registered the property with their name, like charge creation, how we do with, while getting some loan from bank. He has also given the proportionate SFT to the investor. He is paying the interest of rent of rupees 80 rupees to each investor, and he is collecting 200 rupees from the customer. So that is his profit model. Then comes construction company who has raised 50 crores from 200 people. They are all connected through a trade union in Vijayawada. There are different trade unions. This person who has this idea of starting a real estate company is a part of the trade union. There are 200 people. So they have collectively pooled a capital of 50 crore, started investing it in the company. So this company as an equity. So this company has started its operations, constructions, and once all these fields are sold out, they got the money back. Then they bought back the all the equity. The important takeaway here is they have created in mindset that you are not owners of the company, you are investors of the company, because the person who is investing in your company generally don't know about his rights and powers, especially in crowdfunding. When you are going with an angel investor or venture capitalist, they'll be completely knowing what they are having, what powers they have, what decisions they can take, everything they will be knowing. But when you are in crowdfunding, they will not even think of the amount very seriously, because when you are going to ask some 10 lakh rupees, the approach will be different. Whether I can get the investment back or not, how this business works, everything he will be thinking. When it comes to 1 lakh, 10,000, when you decrease the amount, it is inversely proportional to the thinking. He'll be investing like, yeah, we can risk it, no problem, like that. He'll be thinking and he'll be coming to you. Similarly, all the investors has invested the amount. Once the company is in position to buy back, it has bought back all the shareholder shares within 2 years. Then an NGO, starting an NGO with an objectives of the society, helping the people within who are having the startup ideas is the main objective of that NGO. They have pooled funds from the public. As an NGO, they have promoted it, they have pooled the funds, then they have invested it as a capital in these different companies. And all the return and the dividend they are getting, they are using for the welfare of public. That's how it is framed. These are the practical examples from my clientele. Hope this helps you. So I conclude with this based on the time constraints, everything. I conclude with this. If you are having any queries, you can please reach me out with my mail ID caganesh.palakul@gmail.com. I'm going to drop it also. Before closing, I would like to
Sure.
Strategic Alliance Group for this great initiative to keep a platform and maintain it where we can share our knowledge. And they are gathering all the people who are having knowledge and the knowledge seekers on a single platform and conducting these type of sessions. I really appreciate, and it's an honor to me speaking over here. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you, Ganesh, for your informative speech. Your speech added some new insights into this conference too. Thank you a lot for it. Please do share your email ID in the chat box.
Yep.
Sure. Now, moving ahead, I would like to invite Dr. Prashant Singh to share his speech and his insights with all of us. Dr. Prashant Singh, am I audible? Okay. I guess Prashant ji has not joined us due to network issues. Saba, if you can just drop him a call and just look into his issues, it would be a pleasure. Until Prashant ji joins us, I would like to invite Mr. Rohit Salveru to commence his speech and share his insight with all of us. Yeah, Rohit ji, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Sure.
Let me know if I'm audible and visible.
Yeah, you are audible.
Great.
Visibility.
Thanks.
I cannot see Rohit ji. Yeah, you are visible now. Awesome.
Great.
Oh.
Thanks. Thanks, everyone. Ideally, shared a lot of insights from different angles, either from the CA background, how you view for an external, or as a investor. But, I would like to stress upon the founder's perspective. Why even crowdfunding is needed, what are the key challenges he would be facing, and is it necessary, and if it is, even if it is necessary, what type of startups should opt for crowdfunding. So basically, in the current segment, or in the current sector or the market trend, many of the startups are worried, paisa kahan se aayega, where do I get the money from? They approach a number of investors. Because you see in the news, some startup is raising $4 million as a pre-seed round. But everyone is worried, wondering, yeah, I want to do that. I want to raise funds, but how do I do it? And obviously, when you go research about funding and all, you find a bookish answers of, okay, you can raise funds from angels, you can raise funds from VC firms. But ideally, as a founder, if you are having a product which will sure shot scale, and you want to protect your startup, then you should not prefer crowdfunding as a mode of raising fund, because your idea should be secure, what you are doing should be secure and very close network mein rehna chahiye. In the same way, when you raise angel fund, for example, so you choose strategic investors, and also a few angels who are like friends and family, and then you prefer to the VC. Normally, people, what do? They send out mails to all the mail IDs you find in the internet. Yeah, isko bhej दूंगा, usko bhej दूंगा, सबको भेज दूंगा. And also they send to all the VC firms. I have applied there, I have applied here. But see, every time you apply somewhere, you are selling your company, and वो बंदा कहीं और भी भेज देगा. You wanna build something new, and कोई और देख लेगा और बोलेगा मेरे पास तो पैसा है, I will do this, and done. So crowdfunding is only for those projects which, or the startups which, that this will not scale up. I want to keep a boutique. I want to keep a food truck. ऐसे स्टार्टअप और ऐसे बिजनेस में क्राउड फंडिंग चाहिए, लगा दो. एंड अगेन क्राउड फंडिंग में टू मच पब्लिसिटी एंड मार्केट प्रेजेंस रहना चाहिए. यू नीड टू अप्रोच, टॉक टू मेनी पीपल एंड ऑल दिस थिंग्स. But ideally, as a founder, you should choose which type of funding do you want. And another important thing, पैसा रेस करने के लिए पैसा स्पेंड करना पड़ता है. You need to spend money to raise money. From the personal experience, I have 4 startups of my own, and first when I started, I was like, यार पहले I'll raise funds. मेरा product बन गया है, I will raise funds. फंड रेस प्रोसेस करने कंप्लीट करने के लिए 6 महीना लगता है. इन दिस 6 months यू नीड टू हैव द ब्रेड बटर, यू नीड टू हैव टीम. और ये 6 महीना इन्वेस्टर भी डिमांड करता है, मेरे को ट्रैक्शन दिखाओ, मेरे को ना ग्रोथ दिखाओ. जो ग्रोथ पैसे डालने से आता है वो बिना पैसे डाले दिखाओ, मैं फिर डालता हूँ. So even, and then again you need to travel, you need to convince a number of people. पैसा रहे तो ही पैसा मिलेगा. And that is why in the current trend of startups, there are 2 ways. One, a startup which builds its product, which is revenue generating, and then it will raise fund. Second, it is a pure tech startup which is in the idea stage और prototype बन गया है, and it's a hardcore tech startup. So वहां पर उसको प्री सीड में मिल जाता, सीड में मिल जाता है. But other set of startups, once you are revenue generating, that is where you go, and they name it as a growth stage startup. But ideally, crowdfunding is not something which is suggestible for startups who want to grow. If you want to buy something, or if you want to I see a good plot over there, I want to, as previously mentioned, well, like co-working space है, I want to own it. Crowdfunding से पैसा लाया, डाल दिया, and number of people do have stake in that, but that is not something scalable. So scalability के लिए you need to choose what type of funding you want. And apart from that, founders के लिए, whoever is having want to know more on this, there are 3 ways where anyone can raise fund apart from the crowd fund, which is not suitable for a startup sector. Because frankly, let's say you want to build something like an Uber or Paytm kind of a thing, सबको बोल दो foreign से कोई आएगा और करके जाएगा, and then we'll be like, अरे I thought of this, doing this. That's no point. But apart from crowdfunding, any startup, they have the friends and family through which they can raise very small amount, which will fuel them for the main VC to invest, or in micro VC to invest. Second, there are investment bankers. Again, when you approach an investment bankers, you should see कि उसका network क्या है and what are their charges against that. And third is directly you approach to VCs, let's say Y Combinator or any other acceleration programs you go, where you can avail some grants, and you can also raise funds from their network. So there are 3 ways where they can scale up. And obviously, getting the first check is the most difficult thing. One of my startup has taken around 9 months to get their first check. So that is the market standards right now, and very bad, I would say, in terms of startups which are there in the market. Me personally, as an investor, I have invested in a few startups, IPOK, pre-IPO, and then growth stage, T-seed. I have invested in a number of startups. And when you look in the market, startups are very, not that polished or not that scalable, which are coming in the market right now. And this is a challenge for the investors also. So that is what is the market standard. And yes, this is my opinion on crowdfunding, and as a founder, what you should be thinking. Let me know if you have any queries or anything. Yeah, please.
Sure. owing to a small inconvenience from the rest of our panelists, I would like to open the panel for questions for now. All the speakers are requested to kindly switch on your webcams, and attendees, if you have any queries, you can just raise your hand and unmute yourself and speak one by one. Any attendees? Any queries? And I would also like to request all attendees to kindly switch on your webcams. Participants with the webcams off shall not be certified. Yeah, Karnik Patel, please proceed.
Yes, sir. My question is to Rohit, sir, about from the owner's perspective. As you said that it should be the last choice for the crowdfunding. In fact, if the crowdfunding, you said you sell your idea. In major segments, if you see, the ideas are very commonly used. For example, Swiggy and Zomato shares same kind of idea. So if they are selling their idea for crowdfunding, it doesn't matter. The thing is that when the segment is that your idea is very common, what do you think of that? When then at that time does the crowdfunding is a good option or not? When your
So
idea is very common.
got it. So क्या हो जाता है ना, when you see that there are only 2 to 3 monopoly kind of a people acting in the market, and you, even if you are entering in the market, you will show the same services and you will say, okay, apart from this I will add one more service. Abhi isme there is nothing new what you are building, and you can go for crowdfunding. So probably what will happen in these cases, not talking about exactly Swiggy and Zomato, but when in these cases the competitors often tend to buy a lot of shares from your company and keep it back up, so that once you start growing, they will show their real color. So they will try to acquire it. So that is how it goes. And even a controversy thing on Swiggy and Zomato, it is always that who is going to acquire whom at the end of the day. But yes, that is it.
Any other questions? If the panelists would like to unmute themselves and speak one by one. Okay. No question from the panel? Okay. I have a question for you, Sumanji. Since IPO option is becoming quite, famous for all entrepreneurs out there, what's your major point on the differentiation between an IPO and a crowdfunding? Because if we look at it properly, even in IPO, people are raising funds from the public. That's as similar to crowdfunding. So what's the difference in both of them from your point? Since we have entrepreneurs here, if you could just elaborate on that.
See, the difference is basically two things. One is in terms of scale and one is in terms of regulation. So scale, so as I mentioned when I was talking, in India, you can't have on-tap funding. It's always event-based. You have to apply for an IPO or apply for a funding. You have to go to the Ministry of Corporate Affairs and file certain documents, etc., etc. So in the case of crowdfunding, and in India right now, we don't have classical crowdfunding where the funds are aggregated on a platform and then invested in the form of bonds or safe notes or whatever. However, in principle, I would say that if you look at it from a 35,000 feet altitude, it is the same. It is the public are being asked to invest in a business based on either on the track record of the founder or the track record of the business. However, the point here is that in India, a public issue and a private issue, there's a lot of difference between the two, and you can't really do that in the case of a crowdfunding. So, but essentially, the process is very different. The outcome is the same. That the startup gets funded, and the only thing is that in the case of an IPO, usually a lot of the earlier investors get an exit.
Yeah. I guess, Sumanji, we have a related question from Anshika Mathuria. Anshika, if you would like to unmute yourself and speak.
Sure.
Yeah, Anshika. Okay. Question is in the chat box, Sumanji. I'll read it for you. Should a
Yes,
small
please.
investor invest in IPO or crowdfunding? Small investor.
Okay. See, when you categorize investment or your investable amount which is there, you look at it from a risk perspective, right? So the you would want to ensure that the majority of your funds go to avenues which are relatively more regulated and safer. Whether you can talk about government securities or FDs or and debt on one side, mutual funds, and then equities of blue chips, small smaller companies. IPOs, yes, but honestly speaking, the track record of companies in IPOs has been patchy, especially startups. Some have done really quite well. A lot of them have not done so well. I think Paytm is a case in point for various reasons, but mainly because its downfall has been the fact that it has been always thumbing its nose at the RBI. I mean, with all due respect. So the point is that, coming to your question, it's always good to invest in something that you know. Now, for instance, if a person is an IT professional and he wants to invest and he really knows about a particular subject like low code, no code, or whatever it is, and he says that, okay, this is a startup, I understand this space, then the question is, should I invest in this startup or should I invest in an IPO of a business which might be in a similar space? But the fact of the matter is that there is a saying in Latin which is caveat emptor, which is buyer beware, right? Now, buyer beware in this case means that you should always try to invest in something either that you should know or you should learn about. So if there's a person, for instance, if there's a person who's a mid-level manager or a senior level manager in an IT sector who knows about one particular area and he said, okay, I'm looking for startups in that sector. India today has got a startup sector which has both width and depth. That means that you will have lots of different sectors which are there, and within one of each sector there will be enough depth so that you can invest in companies at different stages. If you want to do in ITES, for instance, you can have startups to very, very mature companies. So it is possible. So when I talk to people who want to invest in startups, what I tell them is, hedge your bets, invest in something that you know, hedge across sectors and hedge across life cycle stages. That means some will be very, very early stage startups, some will be mid-level, and some might even might be post Series A, or might have a valuation above 200 crores or something like that. So you need to have in all of these things, balance is important. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, Anshika ji is thanking you in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay. Now moving ahead, I guess Riyanshi Parekh has a question. Riyanshi, if you could like unmute and speak.
No, sir, I don't have any queries right now. It just got cleared.
Okay, sure. Guess we're related. Okay, any other person from the audience? You have any question? Yeah, Ashish Kumar, please.
Sir, should we invest in IPO for only listing gains? Am I audible, sir?
You're asking Rohit or Shravan or?
No, sir. I'm asking to you.
In India, people flip on listing. See, always understand one thing. If you have the ability to get a listing gain, and you think that the company is unlikely to have legs to continue, then you should get out as soon as possible. Because at the end of the day, it's like a lottery, right? But if you've invested in a company and you say, yes, I know the sector, I know that it will do well. Say, for instance, if you really look at, say, for want of a better example, Swiggy. Swiggy today is at a valuation which is perhaps not exactly close to what it should be vis-a-vis Zomato. It's doing slightly differently from Zomato, but the point is that in the case of Swiggy, if you had listing gains, would you sell right now or would you hang on? It's a very easily understandable model. There is enough research and analytics in the field vis-a-vis Zomato, what Zomato has done for the last 2 or 3 years. Everybody knows about quick commerce and stuff like that. So then the question is, if I know about the company, I might want to continue. If I don't know about the company, flip and get out. I mean, there's no investing is a decision that is made with sometimes with the mind and sometimes with the heart. So you should, unless you really understand it, I don't think you should. These decisions should be done in a practical manner. Yeah.
Exactly, that's the point, Sumanji. Okay. Ashish, I hope your query is clear. Yeah, it is. Anyone else, any questions you have for any of our panelists or speakers? You may please raise your hands.
I actually have a question for Rohit.
Yeah.
So Rohit, what was your can you tell us about, after you did your first funding, what was the learnings from the first funding? Because I think that's for the youngsters here, that might be a very interesting
Yes.
idea, because I've seen it on the other side of the table, but I'd be very keen to understand, what do you think from your very first funding that you did at that point in time? What were the gains? What were the learnings from that?
Got it. Until the first fund was received, term sheet ho gaya, SHO ho gaya, until the fund was reflecting in the account, there was always back of mind, yaar band kar dete hai, itna zyada nahi hota. Because how much can you also put in your efforts, your fuel, everything, with a lot of other family background or anything. बस है, कुछ नहीं हो रहा है. How much do you want to drag all this? So a lot of challenges come, but not only just in the first startup. It's like every startup, the first round is always difficult because you want someone to trust. तो वो मेरा challenge हो गया था. But obviously, once one startup is done, you sell it. People know you in the market, and obviously that is how it is easy to get the second startup fund. But once the first startup fund is received, many founders think I will reward myself. Obviously, founder wants to reward himself once the fund is received. मैं इतना दिन salary नहीं लिया है, कुछ नहीं लिया है. I have invested a lot. I want to take some cash out. But that is, a conflict again, which happened between me and my co-founder in that startup as an experience, because he was like, yaar, itna kar diya na, I want to take the reward. But as a finance guy, I was sitting and I am answerable to the investors. And they will ask, okay, paisa mila hai, you wanted to invest, you wanted to show growth kahan par hai? So that was the main challenge what I got. And second point, there is often connect and mentorship given by the investors. That is one best thing what I would say, because investors, strategic investors, investment bankers and mentors, they are the best, because businessmen are network बहुत important. Even if you want a business collaboration also, they have the network and they will get it done. So that these are the two major things. One, the founder should not be greedy after raising funds. If he is greedy, tata bye bye, you will not get the second round. Second thing, have the right utilization of the fund, and always be strong. If you are having doubts on your model or your product, talk to people. Again, talk to experienced people who know, any mentors, but not everyone again, everyone will say, yaar, ye bhi add kar do, usme wo bhi add kar do. Then again, You wanted to solve for 10% of the problem, then you will solve 100% of the problem. फिर VC आके बोलेगा, if you want to do everything, you are not everything. So this is what I have learned, Sumanji.
That was a great experience, Rohit, especially. Uh, Now moving ahead, I think Mr. Sabahuddin has a question, right? Yes, Mohammed
Yes,
Sabahuddin.
sir. Yes, sir. So my question is to Rohit, sir. Sir, in order to going for crowdfunding, because at very first step you cannot find any investor who is readily available to invest in your business ideas or startups. So while going to the multiple investors, should we disclose our all business statistics, what we are going to do, or we should keep some secret so that if I'm not able to find any investor, because since they are investor, knowing my ideas and how I'm going to work, they might copy my business. So at that particular point, what being a startup holder, what should we do?
See, crowdfunding itself is a model where you will ideally give everything about your company to the people. Not just crowdfunding, any investor you speak with, there is certain thing called as data room, which has to be shared, which is your pura, this is na jataka, once pura hey, horoscope and everything, which the companies have everything, my MIS, financials, forecasts, growth plan. Because any VC or any investor who wants to invest in the company, you will be having at least 1.5 to 2 months of conversation with them. कोई ऐसा ही पैसा नहीं डालेगा. He is betting on you and your model, so he wants to understand clearly everything. So in the crowdfunding, you are opening everything, and कोई भी कुछ भी कर सकता है. I cannot promise on the privacy. Second, if you are targeting certain investors and this is among a closed network, that is how it goes, because even they share it to few other investors, unka review, and a lot of things happen. But that model is good because investor market में आपका नाम जाएगा, आपका कंपनी का नाम जाएगा. That is beneficial. And apart from that, choose only close segment of investors and pitch. And there is nothing like you can hide from investors. नहीं तो बोलेगा मैं पैसा क्यों डाल रहा हूँ.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, someone else had a query here. If you can please raise your hands once again. Yeah, Rajat.
Sir, same question like Mr. MD Saudin, but my question is like, what if we can firstly if we can like fake get the try to get invest from fake uh, investment ideas, or we have other ideas, so is it possible?
See, I mean, whenever you want to raise funds, it should be on the idea, perfect idea. I mean, you cannot fake the idea, and no one will also invest in the idea stage. Idea stage में invest करने के लिए, they will see your background first. Many you might have seen a few startups are raising funds in the ideation stage. उसके लिए वो founder 5-10 साल Google में high position होगा. The founder का McKinsey में होगा. That would be his ideal background, and his co-founders would be very senior directors. Then idea stage में पैसा मिलेगा. Normally तो कोई idea में नहीं डालेगा. And unless you build something and you show, no one will pump in money. Build करने के लिए you cannot fake things. दिखाना तो पड़ेगा.
Exactly. That's the answer, Rajat. Okay. Sure. Ramya Shri, if you want to put a question, please unmute yourself and speak. Yeah, P. Ramya. Am I audible? Yeah, please speak, Ramya.
Yes, sir.
You have a question, right, Ramya?
No, sir.
Okay, then why is your hand raised? Okay, chalo, no issues. No other questions from the audience? Okay. Just an important note for the attendees. The certificate link has been shared in the chat box. You can just fill it out for gaining your certificates. Yeah, Sumanji, please.
I just want to leave one last thought. In case you want to do some reading on this, anybody, go to Bloom Ventures and just download the Project Omega files. What Bloom has done, it's a Bloom that is spelled BLUME. If you look at the what they've given is a entire history of their investment over the last 10-15 years. It's called Project Omega. They've done it in two parts, part A, part B. Part B, I think, was released 3-4 days back, but it has got some incredibly good insights. In case any of you want to understand the mind of a VC or the mind of an investor, I think this is something that you can definitely take a look at. And if you can go through it, it's 81 pages. I went through it last couple of days. I was fascinated. You'll find it interesting. Thanks. Yeah.
Sumanji, just a counter question. Blue Ventures is a PE or a VC?
It's a VC. It's not a PE.
VC. Okay, sure.
Difference is that
That's good.
VCs work with founders. PEs replace founders.
Obviously, that's the point to be noted. Sure, Sumanji. Now, moving ahead, since nobody has any queries, I would firstly like to thank everyone for joining us for session 3 of conference 3.9, and I hope that everyone gained some knowledge from this conference. Thank you all again, and we look forward to reconnecting with you at our upcoming conference in the upcoming month. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel to get the recordings of this conference and follow us on all social media handles to stay connected with us in future. And for the attendees, please do fill your certificate form that is in the chat box. It won't be shared again, or obviously ensure that your reports are also submitted on time. And for the speakers, thank you a lot for sharing your valuable experiences. In comparison with day 1 and 2, I am genuinely feeling that day 3 has been quite more valuable because we had a lot of insights, not just from a marketing perspective, but again from a actual fundraising perspective, as well as a leads conversion perspective. And we also had a look on what is to be done and what is not to be done. That's actually what is the most important, to have a clear foresight. So thank you everyone, and obviously thank you participants for staying consistent through all these 3 days of the conference. Thank you a lot. And now we would like to close the conference with this ending salute. Goodbye and have a great day. And obviously keep dreaming.